want to talk about how to maintain, because you could either take this as maintaining weight loss, how to keep that rolling, which technically some of this colours, but actually what happens when you cross that magical finish line. Once upon a time, I lost weight, and then what's next? Well, I will tell you exactly what is next and what to expect, because no one ever tells you about that unless they're very successful. And let's be honest, how many times do you talk to really successful people with weight loss journeys? Like you probably talk to, not very often. Here's where I come in and tell you exactly how it works. So, right, let's go on with it. Coach Helen for UFit Studio. So, then once upon a time, I'll use just I don't know, I'll give him a name, I'm not. Once upon a time, somebody joins, I talk about a classic client journey. From way back in the days where we physically saw each other. A client will join UFit Studio, potentially on a challenge, lose a substantial amount of weight, happy days, so happy they want to continue on that journey because A, maybe they know it's got to be longer term and they've got more that they can achieve, and B, they just love us, so that's cool. And so they stay on the journey and they embark on the next chapter, which may be for a duration of, I don't know, 12 months if it's in-house, right? And start moving forward in those behaviours. So start moving forward in their weight loss journey. Over a period of time, they have a goal or a dress size in mind to say, right, this is where I want to go to. Fantastic. That's great. And then over a period of time, however long it takes, it might take that first year or second year, depending on how much they've got to lose, they get there. Amazing. It's an amazing journey. They're like, wow, remember the days I was first joined as a challenge client and now I'm almost there at my goal. And I had this conversation with just a client this week where she said, something she said, and I said, okay, is it like this? There's a moment where you think you're going to get to your goal weight, that somehow a fanfare goes off, big streamers, I don't know, someone's going to come through the door with a medal or a big cup and say, congratulations, you're amazing. And the deflating truth is that it doesn't happen. You've then got to keep the weight off, right? A lot of people are going to go, oh, this wasn't what I thought. What? What am I meant to do now? Okay. It's scary how many people regain the weight back on at particular points in their weight loss journey. And because they don't know how to keep weight off, because there's a couple of things that happen. I'm gonna talk through it. It's all right. I'm gonna talk through it. And they don't know how to cope with it. And actually, they may believe that somehow they are different than most people when they get to this point, and somehow therefore that means that they're not going to be successful at keeping the weight off. And so usually that kind of feeds into the yo-yo dieting kind of mentality, where someone will lose weight, then put it back on, try different means of getting the weight off, be successful, put it back on. No, it's not because they have an inability to lose weight. They actually do. It's keeping the weight off that they lose that becomes the challenge, which is where it goes into a vicious cycle. I've used that joke for ages. No, a vicious cycle. No? Okay. Okay, firstly, we'll move on. Firstly, why does this happen? Psychologically, why this happens. And I've talked about this once, I think, over the last 12 months. We talk about it more in person. If you think about where you are, if you're in the middle of your weight loss journey right now, or you've been through one before, there is always, generally, whether you're conscious of it or not, a push and a pull, motivation, I'll use that word, goal, we'll say goal. There's a motivation, no, done it again, there's a goal, there's a push and a pull, goal. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So a push goal would be, or driver, we'll call it a driver, that sounds more appropriate. There's a push drive. I don't want to be like this anymore. I am sick of being the way I am. I'm sick of being the size I am. I'm sick of being overweight. I'm sick of how my body feels. I've had enough of feeling tired. I've had enough of not being able to keep up with my kids, of feeling, whatever you want to call it, right? That is the push driver. The pull, right, or the pull goal, drive, would be, I want to be like this. I want to be this number, this weight, this dress size, this person. So there's two things happening at the same time. So both are actually working together. Whether or not you're conscious of it is something else. There might be a thought process. But actually, when it comes down to it, when you're in the sticky moments of deciding whether or not to eat that third slice of cake, one of these will kick in, consciously or subconsciously. One of them will kick in. They'll be, no, come on, you've been here before, gal. Let's not carry on eating 5 puddings, Gribble. Let's just clarify that nickname. It's a real thing. Come on, Gribble, don't have the 5th pudding. You've been there before. You don't want to go back to where that was? No, I don't. I'm going to move away from that. Come on, Helen. You've got a holiday at some point in this year, this century. Come on, you're working towards something. Yes, that's right, I am. And I'm then being pulled away from the behaviour or habit. So, well, again, you may or may not be conscious of this while weight loss journey is happening. It's there. So, we get to, let's wind forward through the challenge, through the membership, to that finish line. The warmer. Okay. So, immediately what usually happens is both vanish. Putting it honestly. So you're so far away from potentially the person that you were when you started the journey, like so far away from that person, that actually the thought of going back to that is very distant. The pull towards your goal also gone, because you're there. You've crossed that finish line. Fanfare didn't happen again, right? The fanfare, the medal, streamers, brass band, whatever you want, did not happen, right? So those things didn't happen. So that has also taken that away. So you can leave a client feeling, I use the terminology words, descriptors that I hear often. Lost is a big one. Demotivated, lost, demotivated. What was I the other day? Disappointed, strong one, it's true. I had a really good one the other day. It's going to annoy me now. It was just there as well, it's just gone. Essentially, it leaves somebody with a sense of a lack of direction because both those elements are gone, right? So here's where actual maintenance becomes very challenging because of that fact. You're at your magic perfect weight / dress size / whatever it is, and suddenly there's nothing there to keep you knowing that you're going in a particular direction or understand where you're headed. Here, right, at this point, here is what historically we do with clients or have done with clients to deal with this. Firstly, talking about it is A1 important. And usually with my clients, I'll start talking about it a good month before they're there. Right, from experience, because there's nothing worse to get there, from personal experience as well, of us going, right? Also to have that conversation way ahead and understand that when that sensation hits, it's not unusual, it is common. Everybody who's gone before you as a client with us, who is successful long term, has that feeling of, okay, where do I go? Do I be? I've even had clients say to me, and Sam said as well, I don't think I belong at UFIT because I've lost weight. Imagine that. They're in a community of people, a tribe of people, all like-minded, supportive, and suddenly they don't feel like they belong because they're not losing weight. So again, firstly, having the conversation like this, or knowing that this is completely a standard response to someone in that point, is the first step. And when you get there, I'm just going to say that because you all will get there, language, when you all get there, I want you all to recollect that you listened or watched this at some point, that it's okay, this is part of the process, and then how to deal with it. So as a coach, part of it is, again, to repeat, information, communication, understanding it's okay. Next stage is to start to create something that is almost like recreating those push and pull, albeit understanding that it may not have initially the same kind of oomph, we'll call it oomph. Can't think of different words, so I'll say oomph. Now, some people will work on, some people, it doesn't work for everybody, some people will work on generating the fear. Okay. What is the fear, Helen? What is the fear? What is the fear? The fear, and Sam talks about the fear with how he approaches things, because he's very much fear driven. So the fear is recreating that push again, away from a certain behaviour or a certain, an initial example I used weight. Now, as I said, you may be so far away from that, that's not scary enough. So with some clients, I have to ask the question, okay, if you're drifting at this point, let me ask you a question. Who is it that you want to be? What are the characteristics of the person you want to be in terms of your health, in terms of your fitness, in terms of overall mental approach? And then who do you not want to be, right? Who do you want to move away from? Generally speaking, I'll say things like, I don't want to be that lazy person. I don't want to be that person that doesn't go to the gym. I don't want to be that person that allows myself to make those decisions. I said, okay, well, here's your fear. You have to create the fear to say, I don't want to go back into the person that I was with those habits and behaviours, because that's accepting that I also want to put on weight, right? Whether it's putting the weight all the way up to where you started is by the by. The fear is, I do not want to be that person that accepts that. Because also, sidebar, if you've been through this whole process for long enough, it's not just your weight that's changed. It's your levels of confidence. It's how you view yourself in social situations. It's how you approach the rest of your life. Now, again, from experience, if that means changing a job, changing a relationship, changing how you approach most things in life, it's also saying to yourself, do I want to go back to the person I was before that didn't do any of that? Do I want to go back to the person who was demotivated, not confident, don't feel like I can be myself, hiding my body in clothes, all those things, right? Do I want to go back to that person and recreate the fear? Recreating the fear. Because I can tell you now, if I go back to one of my first points about yo-yoing, it is far easier, and if you've done this before, you'll know what I'm about to say, it's far easier to go back to the person you were before and gain that weight far quicker than it was to get it off, right? That's a genuine fact. So it doesn't take much of lack of fear and comfort. I'm comfortable, Helen. That's a good one. I get to say I'm comfortable now. Not comfortable in 8 months' time when the weight's gone back on, right? So that's because there wasn't enough fear of falling back into those positions. So you have to generate your own fear levels and enough of a push away, like you had when you're losing weight, to continue that journey, right? And the language around that is important as well. Also, as something I'm going to bring into this. It's not about weight loss at a certain point. It becomes about health. Okay? It becomes about your overall health and maintaining the healthy position you've got yourself into. Now, whatever those healthy habits and behaviours need to be to continue that, that's where you create your pull or your goal moving forward, or where you want to move towards. Again, historically, from experience with dealing with so many clients over so many years who get to this position, it may be, right, that is not a number. It's very rare it's a number again, because why would you? You've crossed the finish line, you have your medal, woo, win. I have won. It's an infinite game, right? We know this. It's not a finite game we all play, lose weight, go home. You've got to keep playing the game to stay where you are and stay healthy, stay with the weight off. So that means that sometimes it's not about numbers. It rarely is. Actually, it might be, my next goal is I want to do something like, I want to do, we've had it all, triathlon, 5 peaks. I want to do Kilimanjaro, base camp Everest. I want to cycle from London to Paris. World's your oyster, really, if you're in that position. I want to be able to bench press X amount of weight. I want to be able to deadlift X amount of weight, back squat this amount of weight. I want to have really great ab strength, right? All these things that are fantastic have zero to do with weight loss, and actually all to do with what you've created from a health perspective and what you're capable of. This is another thing to consider. Once you have all this weight off and you've been genuinely successful in that over a longer period of time, you will also want to challenge yourself in different ways, right? And that might be an acceptance that actually all these things I thought I couldn't do, well, if I did this, I can do anything. So it's creating something again. So you've got that push away from fear. I don't want to be the person I was, whatever that was, the behaviours you had, or currently have now if you're not comfortable with them. And I need to create something to pull towards, right? So mindset is very important at this stage if you want to keep your weight off. And that's where I think a lot of people aren't successful, again, because they, A, don't have a coach, and B, they think that somehow they're doing something wrong because they don't understand why they're no longer motivated to do something. Well, because you've been motivated to do a particular task and now it's a different task. And also motivation being not real, it's a routine that hasn't been agreed on because you don't know what you're working towards and what you're moving away from, right? So that's from a mindset point of view. What about all the other stuff then? Firstly, food. Okay, from my experience, it's a fantastic thing to be in that position. Let's get real, okay? You're potentially at quite a low weight. You're potentially feeling the best you have done for years. And you're able to eat a little bit more food than you were potentially before. And you might be able to push a little bit boundaries on some of the splurges you're having, etc. That doesn't mean to say that you need to be able to know what your maintenance calories are, or your maintenance portions, or how many splurges you can have and stay within where you want to be for your weight. All too often, especially with yo-yo dieting, the psychology is I'm there, I've won, and then not change anything about food behaviours that potentially were there before, certainly if it's a very short yo-yoing approach. Which means that if you really are realistic and honest with yourself, if you adapt and keep those same behaviours, it's not long before you're not in a calorie deficit before you gain weight again. Hence the yo-yo, vicious cycle. Right, any excuse to get that in. Now, what does that look like, or how do you do it? It's, again, my next point, you maintain measuring your progress. Again, it's something that people fail to do when they reach the finishing line. They go, I'm here, I need to stop doing everything. I don't need to worry about it anymore. I feel fantastic. That's great. No. You need to still be monitoring. You can't see what you can't measure, right? So if you can't see that you're gaining weight because you're not measuring it, then you can't see it. If you can't see that you're not measuring your food portions or being conscious of splurges, you can't measure if you're actually maintaining weight or gaining weight, right? It's not possible. So if you're not measuring it, you can't see it. So weighing in and checking in with staying accountable to coach, next point, right? So it's not that we go, great guys, thanks, you're a fantastic client, cheers, you've lost weight, see you later. No, because we know all this is happening. In fact, arguably, it's the most accountable somebody has to be made at that point to ensure they understand this whole process. So the coach keeping you accountable to weighing in and saying, hey, let's keep this weight, let's clarify your goal, let's understand where you're heading back to, and let's get a plan in place about where you want to go. So being held accountable, right? Now, here's the other part that some people, one of the final parts, but some people understand, and some people it's a mystery, certainly when they get there. I think there is some myth, potentially, around what maintenance actually means. And I always clarify this with the client, and again, usually way before they get that goal. A lot of perception, and I'll admit that I find this with clients and I find this for myself, the perception is, say, I don't know, my goal was 70 kilos. I want to be 70 kilos. Fantastic. I'm 70 kilos. So now I will stay at 70 kilos forever. This is me maintaining my weight. 70. The reality is that maintenance weight is realistically, for me as a coach, within about 2 to 3 pounds in either direction of that weight. So it might be 72.5, right? It might be 68 as a lower end, 68, 69, 68.5, right? But within that barrier, there's a buffer zone, really, that's realistic. Now, why would you create that? Firstly, because, and that's a whole separate live I talked about, water weight fluctuates on a daily basis. Forget about checking in once a week, right? Eat some mashed potatoes the night before, some pasta, and that's going to deregulate your weigh-in. So it's never exact. It's never going to stay exact on the same day. We know this with our clients weighing themselves 3 times a day. Yes, it will change, right? It changes for women, again, all the way through the month. So to say it's always going to be exact and maintaining exact weight is never going to happen, ever. Again, though, why would I create, or why would we talk about such a large buffer between one point and the other? Final point, and this is probably going to be more prudent to people this year than last year, to be fair. The buffers or the boundaries are there for maintenance and to help you keep weight off, so you're working towards different events through life. Now, let me paint another story. Once upon a time you're on a challenge, so you didn't, and you're in the middle of a lockdown, so you probably didn't go into any social events that you're aware of. You then went into the membership, and that was fantastic, got your goal weight, and then we got left out of lockdown, and eat out to help out might happen, I hope not. still like, please, no. It might be family barbecues has been put off forever happening. It might be something bigger, which is what I'm getting on to. Like every single wedding that's been delayed for the last 48 months, it senses, will be happening towards the back end of this year. Every birthday celebration that's delayed, anniversary, holidays are coming. I don't mean Christmas, okay? Of some description. Now the buffer is there for a reason, to plan for these events realistically with a client who's looking to maintain weight. It's again, historically, I'm really making my mind to say if I'm going to say this as honest. Yes, this is I'm as honest. I've yet to meet a client to get through a 10-day all-inclusive holiday and come back at exactly 70 kilos of which they left, with all best intentions, let alone if they've not been on holiday for 24 months. So here's the question: what would you do then to maintain weight and come back at 70? Or you bring it down to 68 before you left, or potentially lower, right? So you go to the lower end of that scale, so you're in a deficit from your maintenance or your ideal weight, in acceptance that you know it'll be difficult for you to maintain that while you're away, rather than argue it's not going to happen. No, it won't happen. I'll train every day while I'm there. Nobody ever does. The kit stays in the suitcase. Okay. The reality is you bring it down to the lower end of that buffer window, in acceptance that you might come back at, say, I don't know, 71? Maybe, right? It's okay because it's still in that window. So then you instigate the push and pull again at that point and bring yourself back into an ideal situation while working towards your other future goals. So that's real maintenance. These are things that people don't tell you, really. And I kind of half made the point before we went live, officially. In reality, from my experience as a client before working with UFIT, it's very rare that you have a genuine conversation one-on-one with somebody who genuinely successfully loses weight and becomes incredibly healthy through hard work, through changing diet, through training regularly, through sticking through the grind, and coming out the other end, 1 to 2 years later, a complete different person mentally and physically. Now, I don't think I ever had any conversation with anybody like that before joining UFIT. And so I had no context of what is actually meant to happen or can happen, or is what needs to be put in place to ensure that I would have the same experience. Now, luckily, I did have the same experience because I did become a member, and now I've become a coach, and I facilitate the same environment or same experience for clients going through the process, so they understand that as well. And so we're often sold on ideas and myths of, like I said, like weight stays exactly the same. There's a brilliant moment where I feel fantastic and the angels open and start singing for me, and I would have absolutely amazing abs of my goal weight, all these things that you think are possible, and yet actually you've never really had a one-on-one conversation with somebody who has done it genuinely and successfully. I mean, some people might have, and I think that's fantastic if you have, but actually getting into reality what it is to maintain that afterwards, and understanding the psychology and what needs to happen with both your food and how you organise accountability and how you manage your weight and your goals, etc. That can sometimes be a mystery. That's what I'm here to tell you about. So I'm not going to recap all of that because it's gone on for a while. This was a long one, wasn't it? Because it's a good topic. If you have any questions about that, you can obviously pass them through to me. I'm quite happy to respond. So firstly, deal with your mindset. Mindset key. Right? Work out what the push and pull is again. It is possible. I'm proof. Plenty of clients are proof. It is possible to do. Know what your maintenance calories is, how far you can push and shove, what that actually means. It doesn't mean just throw everything out of the cart and start eating like you did before, because guess what? You'll go back to the person you were before. Have your accountability, right? Keep accountability. Keep measuring and weighing. So you can't measure what you can't see. So you don't know if you're actually maintaining if you're ignoring actually weighing in, right? Which a lot of people struggle to do. And think about your buffer zone. So what's your buffer? What's realistic? And some people say, oh, I want to stay within a pound. I'm like, hey, come on. It's November and Christmas is coming. Let's get real. Let's just open that a little bit. So be realistic about your behaviours. If you're at this point, you're in a fantastic situation to be able to do that. As I said, I always say, world is your oyster at this point. What do you want, right? So that's me. I'm back again tomorrow for another one at 5 o'clock. Title of which escapes me right now, but I'm sure it's just as thrilling as this one. As I said, any comments, anything you want to share, hit hit me up. I'm not literally. Please message me. I'll be happy to help. And I'll catch you tomorrow.